Hi, my name is Robert Kohler. I'm the founder of Kohler Law Group. Kohler Law Group is a high-tech law firm based in the Bay Area, California. We work with startups to mid-sized companies in the revenue generating stage of their existence, doing a lot of deals, a lot of sales agreements, things like that, and also publicly traded companies. During this video, I wanted to chat very briefly about startups. So, first thing, if you're interested in starting or you're starting a startup, make sure all the founders are in agreement on the vision of the company, where we're going to go, what markets you're going to address, have some latitude for changes in the business model, changes in the product that inevitably happens, and iterations along the way. Also, every founder should understand exactly what their role is and what their responsibility is. And there could be flexibility there, but in general, who's doing what, how much time is being committed, what if someone doesn't uphold what they agreed to do? They get kicked out, or if they leave on their own volition, is there a buyback for the shares? And with respect to the shares, what is the vesting? So you may have X% to vest over a year or 2 years or 4 years on a monthly or quarterly basis. Make sure that's spelled out very clearly. When it comes to the organization type, generally most startups, for good reason, either go with a C Corp or LLC. That gives you flexibility with ownership and issuing additional shares to independent contractors and future employees. Also, that's what any institutional investor will want to invest in, not a sole proprietorship, not a partnership. So LLC and C Corp are the best way to go. Also, there is insulation from liability, from personal liability to some extent. There's ways around that, and also for taxation purposes. So LLC, C Corp is generally our recommendation, and the recommendation of most tax professionals and attorneys in the high tech world. Another thing to have when you are preparing to really go out with your startup is have form agreements ready. So you want to have a non-disclosure agreement. I prefer a mutual non-disclosure agreement because it's reciprocal, it's bilateral. What applies to you applies to me. So it's a fair agreement, not one-sided. I hate one-sided agreements and I hate verbose agreements. My personal NDA is a one-page mutual non-disclosure, short and sweet, non-objectionable, fair, and so it's one less thing to have legal issues over. So I try to keep my agreements very short, very sweet, and it works for me. But it depends on the situation as well. Another agreement is IP ownership and assignment. So if you intend to or plan on retaining independent contractors, everyone from a web designer to a graphic artist to offshoring for development for a particular technology component, you always want to have a independent contract agreement that clearly spells forth what are the deliverables, the timing for the deliverables, payment obligations, timing for payment obligations, acceptance clause, and then most importantly, IP ownership. So if you have a developer working on some code for you, make sure you own it. If you have a graphic designer working on a logo, make sure you own that as well. So those are some simple things, but very, very important down the road especially. You also want to make sure you have employment agreements that are enforceable. So it should be an at-will contract, meaning that employees can be terminated at will, and it should set forth the standard regulations that are required whatever state you're located in. California has fairly stringent requirements, so make sure you have an attorney with experience in the local jurisdiction employment laws. Also, everything coming from sick time, leaves, maternity leaves, etc. should be there. And also, that would also cover options and the grant of options and the vesting, etc. So employment agreements are extremely important, and they also ensure proprietary rights as well. Again, ensuring that your company owns everything created, and on a going forward basis, you have documentation to show that when you're in due diligence to raise your next round. Regarding your terms of use, you should have a solid terms of use agreement that covers things like the right to use the site, what you're able to do, what is the site permitting, and limitation of liability is extremely important as well. Warranties and limitation of liabilities, and intellectual property rights. So ownership of the copyright, and finally, a privacy policy is obviously required and extremely important. And some of the high-level terms that should be identified: what data is the site it does collect and is entitled to collect? How will the information be used? What's the privacy policy? And in terms of disclosure to third parties, using it for advertisers, disclosure, etc. And you want to protect the confidentiality and the security of the information collected and the users as well. So in summary, legal counsel should be retained. This is all very, very important stuff from the outset, and particularly as the business becomes successful, and you want to make sure that you have a defensible position for all of this. You can show IP, you can show ownership, you can show that during due diligence you have everything, that you've done everything right, and any mistakes you've made are nominal and minimal and can be addressed. But the more work you do up front, and the better counsel you have who has experience with securities, with IP, with business law as well, and just general providing business solutions to companies, which is really valuable. And one thing that Kohler Law does, we provide legal advice for legal language, for negotiating terms, etc. But more than that, it's business advice as well. We've been around 20, 30 years for every attorney. I personally have founded and sold 3 companies, so I know the ins and outs of raising money, pulling your hair out, managing departments and engineers and marketing teams, and finding exits. So having that knowledge and that experience is valuable for clients. So I recommend it. Any questions, feel free to send me an email, rkohler, R-K-O-H-L-E-R, at Kohler, Kohler, -law.com. Thank you for your time.